Is everyone seeing it?
Yep, now we are.
Okay. So this is Flex. This is our on-demand transit product. We've been working on it for quite a while, and it finally hit the streets last year. When you think of Flex, we think that the best way to describe it is on-demand ride-sharing service, much like Uber Pool. One of the bigger differences that folks get lost in or get caught up in is you will call for an Uber that's an individual ride for you and your group. You go direct. When you use Cdta's Flex or you use an Uber Pool type of product, it's a shareable ride product in the sense that there could be multiple stops along the way to your journey, but you still will get there in a vehicle, obviously much smaller than a regular fixed route bus, and with the ability to be hailed in a number of different ways. We are utilizing a mobile app for most of the reservations we've had over the course of the past 14 months, but it is also available to anyone who has a landline. So we were surprised. We've seen about 20% of our ridership is coming from calls, which has kind of risen over the course of the past 15 months. So that's a nice surprise, and we're working on some changes here internally at Cdta to allow for better customer reservations with respect to the calls flowing through our call center, where right now they're running through our flexible services division that actually puts this on the street. You'll see here on the slide, it is curb to curb. So there are neighborhood access opportunities, but it is not going to be door to door. We are not currently at this point providing service with the operator going door to door, but we will be on the curb of a home or a corner, a business, any of those types of circumstances if somebody's interested. There's a lot of connections happening at transit hubs, which is part of why these programs are designed. You want to be able to make a complete journey through different multiple modes, and that's where Flex on Demand helps to come in. And also trying to cover gaps that we have in the service area network here in the capital region, transit, food deserts, and also give us the ability to expand hours. For those of, I understand we have some visually impaired folks here today. On our slide right now, we have the Flex vehicle. It's the size of a minivan, a little bit larger. Think of a small transit tech vehicle. It's our Cdta Royal Blue, and it holds anywhere from 6 to 10 customers at one time. That number is predicated on how many reservations there are, and also includes the ability, we do have some accessible vehicles to make sure that all types of customers have access to this service. Just a little quick background on how it works. Like a lot of ride hailing here that you may have experienced, there is a mobile application with our partners Transloc. Transloc is a subsidiary of Ford Smart Mobility's company. Ford took a pretty big leap a couple of years ago to really invest in kind of alternate options, from their normal fleet that we all grew up knowing and loving. And the app is really, it works pretty well. It allows for real-time updates and arrivals and drop-offs. And at the same time, what it's doing in the background, it's then putting together and populating a list of stops and who should be picked up when. They use what's termed, for those of you that aren't in the business, an algorithm. That algorithm helps to kind of drive the program that we're utilizing on the street. And then that algorithm is shown in an in-tablet display for our operator to be able to pick up the next ride. So the operator is really only dealing with one ride at a time. It's not being provided where 3 trips, the next 3 are shown, and they could get confused or say, forget this. This makes more sense to go here first. It's really going trip by trip and turn by turn. And the general process for where, on-demand services work is right in the sweet spot between fixed routes and cars. A lot of folks may not either have the ability to purchase a car, the faculties to operate one, or the ability to have access to it on a regular basis. And then again, the fixed route buses work in certain areas better than they do in others. It's just a simple fact of geography. Cities and even neighborhoods in some suburban areas, it can work, but it really needs to be tied in tightly to the traffic engineering to make sure that it's logical and that it doesn't really impede the progress of the route, and make sure that we can get there in an efficient amount of time. And on the slide here, we've talked about providing coverage to areas that aren't served well currently, which we'll get to further on in the presentation. Replace less efficient routes and segments, some of which we've done in the first zone in Colony, which we'll show you shortly. And then providing supplemental service during off-peak times. So, as an example, in Schenectady, a lot of our services are done by 7, 8 o'clock at night on the weekends. Flex, if there is ridership demand and a critical mass, allows us the ability to quickly on the fly make those changes and be able to provide service in a very streamlined fashion, which is very helpful. So taking a look now on the screen is our first Flex service area that's been in operation since January of 2020. It basically is a 16.7-mile square area that covers from Albany International Airport over there in Colony and all the way down past Crossgates Mall. You're getting into Hamilton Square and a little bit deep into the further into kind of the McCownville neighborhood. Albany are considered some of the touch points there. Patron Creek, Harriman Campus are touch points just outside the zone. But you'll see, and we describe here on this map, dots that are outside our service area because they're large ridership generators. So there are some things we need to keep in mind with that as well. Somebody trying to take a trip from Latham Farms to Guilderland Town Hall, as it would be, is going to require a significant amount of time and take that vehicle with it along the way. So we're always trying to keep the time frames to about 20 minutes or less. And we've had a pretty good success rate with that, but we do feel that at peak times, a third vehicle was needed, so we were able to do that as well. And we are averaging currently anywhere between 85 and 90 trips a day. And the monitoring of the service has allowed us to do a few things. We've made adjustments to fixed route service in this same polygon area. Route number 117 and route number 190 were both dialed back in terms of their frequency and spans because Flex was able to be out on the road in times where we were averaging under 5 customers per hour. We've also been able to change the polygon. So we were able to include British American Boulevard as an example, and some of the areas near Albany Shaker Road, Troy Schenectady Road rather, that we were able to kind of put into the area and make sure that if there was a customer out there in need, we were able to do that. And I've got a simple note here to analyze costs. We can certainly share that the cost to operate, purchase a Flex vehicle versus a fixed route bus is significantly different. It is lesser, but without the other pieces that go into it, how many vehicles are needed on the road at any given time, how many vehicles are needed to cover a certain service area versus one bus, it might take 5 vans. We're not fully there yet on the analysis of the cost, but again, having the ability to make these changes in a pretty quick fashion has been helpful. The last bullet on this slide that we have here, our most popular locations probably aren't of a surprise. Northway Mall, Crossgates Mall, the Wolf Road area. There are some workers going to Corporate Circle. And what excites Lindsay and I the most about that is a lot of the folks who are going to Corporate Circle are stopping over at our BRT stop on Central Avenue, taking the bus rapid transit route as far as they can to their work or service destination, and then utilizing Flex for the rest of the trip. So we've all heard and seen the term first last mile, so we've been able to do a lot of that with it as well. Lindsay, is there anything you want to add about how the pilot's gone in Guilderland, Colony, Latham?
Just that we've seen, with the climate, due to the pandemic, we got off to a really fast start with Flex. Pandemic dropped those numbers significantly once people stopped going to work, and a lot of the retail areas were closed down. But once people started to get a little more comfortable over the summertime, getting out a little bit more, we saw those numbers climb right back up, almost to where they were, at our high point when we first launched the service. So that's just something we keep in mind as we're looking at data, as John had mentioned, to make the best, most efficient service for our customers.
And there's no perfect solution. So I want to bring up one thing I've been working on, and I saw some of the names on the call. So hello to those of you that I've worked with before. One of our challenges in this zone remains nursing homes. We are still in conversation with Daughters of Sarah, Teresian House, and Albany Shaker Place rather, because the Flex product didn't jive with them initially. There's a little bit of discomfort there about either how it works and what to do, so we continue to operate that, but there still are some challenges, even with this being available 7 days a week, pretty much from 6 in the morning until the end of the evening, almost 11 o'clock now. There still are some gaps, so we're still trying to address those. And just some quick overview numbers on the service. And again, the van I described earlier in the presentation can hold between 8 and 10 passengers. We do have an accessible vehicle in the zone. We did purchase a couple, but we're also going to be expanding soon. So our goal is to make sure there's at least one accessible vehicle in every community that Flex operates, so that we have that ability and can provide that service to all customer types that need it. Our hours are pretty extensive, 6 a.m. through 10:45 p.m. and Monday through Friday. We just actually reduced that back from 11:30 p.m. part and parcel to what I was discussing about the nursing homes, that we had some nursing home workers indicate that they wanted to use Flex. We put it out there in about August for them to access it, and it just hasn't materialized. So we were dialing back that. That actually happened about a week ago, and that's, again, what's great. We can make these changes on the fly, but you certainly have to be understanding of it, addressing the customer in time as well. The service operated free of charge as a pilot from January 2020 to October 2020, and then we did some research and we instituted a fare. For those of you that can see the slide, $3 per trip anywhere within the zone, and we also wanted to offer some discount. So for those folks who know they're going to be using Flex regularly, we came up with a 10-trip pass for $25 for $2.50 per ride. To give you the order of magnitude of that, Cdta's regular fixed route service is $1.50. The lowest price TNC ride-hailing sharing option I've seen in the capital region is no cheaper than $7. So we wanted to be closer, certainly, to the historical transit prices than in the past. And also, for those of you on this call, because again, I remember seeing some of the names in the groups, this is available for half fare pricing. So any customer who has been accredited by our organization as being applicable for half fare pricing, they would ride for $1.50 per trip and could get that $25 pass for $12.50. So we've tried to accommodate as many customer groups as possible. So we're excited because Lindsay and I spent the better part of a year working on the next Flex zone because the pandemic really slowed us down. We were ready to launch this probably about a year ago, but we're working in southern Saratoga County. We're trying to provide connection between Mechanicville and the commercial center there at exit 9 of Clifton Park, work services and shopping recreation, much like we do with all of our services. We've been to the Mechanicville City Council. They like it. Lindsay and I actually earlier this morning had a call with the Saratoga Chamber of Commerce. We're going to work on a partnership to alert the folks in the Clifton Park Commercial Center about the opportunity that's coming for them. And we really just need to finalize how we're going to outreach it. And the idea of the fare structure component is whether or not we offer an in-city pricing in Mechanicville. The idea here is we talked about the mileage on the other one in Colony, Guilderland, Latham is 16 miles. What you see on the screen and what we're sharing here is a polygon that's 9 miles. So this is about half the size, but at the same time, it's not a straight shot polygon. There are nooks and crannies and a lot of space between the two ends. So we're going to need to manage this a little bit more closely, make sure vehicles are in the right place. And for those of you that are really looking detailed at the map, we have a few touch points outside of the actual polygon itself. That Walmart there is just, in between exits 8 and 9. And then some of the larger wholesalers up past exit 9, US Foods, County Waste, and Cisco are all included as options because we do believe there's going to be a want and need to utilize this type of service at those businesses and locations. And just to give a quick little brief, glimpse into the future here, what is it that we see for Flex? I would say it's fair to say at Cdta we see a lot for Flex, that it can hopefully serve us in ways that we've been looking to do for years and years. Low ridership transit corridors are the first obvious no-brainers. In places where we don't have to spend upwards of $500,000 on a vehicle and then $250,000 annually to operate a bus, if we can do that much more cost effectively, where the ridership is less than 10 or 15 per hour, we're going to try to do that for the variety of reasons I've outlined. One of our long-term challenges here has been the Rensselaer Rail Station. We've not been able to find an appropriate mechanism to welcome customers from out of town. For those who are returning to town, we believe that Flex is great an answer for downtown Albany in close proximity. We still need to determine whether or not Flex can be something for a customer who comes at the rail station and needs to get up to Malta. And those kind of Schenectady and those further away areas, we're not quite sure. We do believe that eventually downtown Saratoga Springs, the area in and around Broadway, Congress Park, and all that, is likely to be better served by Flex services. We anticipate, obviously, that the 450, which operates between Schenectady, Boston Spa, and Saratoga, would remain. But in some of the other in-town pieces, we believe Flex is going to make a ton of sense there. And then, the other work that we have to do is we have to plan. As I discussed earlier, Transloc is our current provider. I'm not sitting here willing to guarantee they'll be our provider in 5 years. There is a lot of movement in this space, as there is in a lot of transportation. The type of vehicle is not likely to change significantly, but we do want to make sure that we stay on it with accessible vehicles and just the most up-to-date technology that we can get our hands on, and just making sure we have enough operators. You know, it's been a very challenging year for most everyone. We have the support of the federal and state governments, which is obviously helpful because we are an essential service run by essential workers, but we still have to do that long-term planning. So, you know, I think it's safe to say that we've seen that microtransit certainly can work here in the capital region. From a CDTA perspective, it allows us to do a lot of the things that have been very challenging for almost going on 51 years now, of just the right time, the right place with the right service. So having the smaller vehicle with a more nimble time frame of when we can change and say what we're doing has been very helpful for us. And, you know, Lindsay's managing an entire division at this point. You know, mobility management started with bikes. It now includes on-demand transit. We are going to unveil an electric scooter pilot here in the next few months, and we are also working diligently to see how we can bring about the return of car sharing to the region, but also with a focus on electricity. So there's a lot in new mobility here at Cdta. We're very excited about it, and we're happy to share where we are with Flex today, and further happy to take any questions or go through any commentary that might have come up. I know you must have at least a question, Carrie.
You did get one comment, Peggy, just noted
I saw.
that
Thank you,
this
Peggy.
would be great for the hill towns.
Yeah, and we've done some work with Albany County out there in the hill towns as well. So I think it's certainly something we can continue to talk about, and happy to look at where and when it makes sense.
Okay, and we did have another question in the registration asking about the relationship basically between Flex and Star, and if you see Flex as a potential alternative to Star.
I think they coexist. I mean, I think Star customers, there's a variety. You know, there are customers who hop between Star and the fixed route service. There's customers who have mobility aids that use Star, and there's customers with physical disabilities who don't require those mobility aids on Star. And I think Flex is certainly an option, but in most cases, it operates where Cdta operates. Mechanicville might be a bit of a stretch in that regard, and I say that, Carrie, meaning that Star and Flex kind of do the same thing in a lot of places. The difference might be the time of day. So, for example, if the 354 in Schenectady stops at 8, but we have a Flex zone going till 10, then the Star customer would have access between 8 and 10 maybe, where they didn't before. So I think it's another additional option for certain Star customers, depending upon geography and time of day.
So follow-up, I guess, I think Mechanicville, until you have Flex there, doesn't have fixed route service, correct? So
Correct.
If it expands to Mechanicville, are the residents in Mechanicville now going to have access to Star?
I don't believe that that's the way the law is written in terms of the service, because we're on demand versus with no fix. The Star law, at least the one that we follow and abide by here in the capital region, is within a certain proximity of fixed route service. So without that certain proximity, it's not likely to be something we would do. But at the same time, like we just discussed, there's a significant overlap in what Flex and Star do and how they look and how they function. So I would hope that Star customers in Mechanicville interested are able to utilize Flex in that way for what they need, at least at the outset.
Right. So your ridership profile in Mechanicville actually might end up looking different than the type of people who are using the service in Colony, because you may trend more to people who would otherwise be Star riders if it's fixed route.
You've said it quite well. I think that's what we're unsure of. You know, there's a good connection to be had between Mechanicville and the commercial center of Clifton Park, but I think Mechanicville, the way they operate and the way they're structured as a municipality, I think they probably see just as much of this to get in and around town, to the doctor, to Price Chopper, and those types of things. So yeah, I could see what you're saying, and we're hopeful that we can find both audiences. I would like to find the audience that has that essential need, but we also, you know, Clifton Park's an area where we don't operate really at all outside of the Northway Express, so we would like to be able to showcase what transit can do for that commercial center as well. It's hard, those are two really opposite customers, but that's what we do a lot here at Cdta, so hopefully we can get it to work.
So if anybody has questions, feel free to put your hand up and I can make it so you can talk or throw it in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were concerned about the fair institution in October, but it is, I'm going to say it, it's a fair, from dollars and cents perspective and the value you get out of it. I think the mobile application is helpful, but for those who don't have access to that type of technology, you can just call our customer service line and directly get your trip there. So we've tried to cover as many of the bases as we can. I always like to say we've covered all the bases, but I can't promise that. But we're going in with the best intentions, that's for sure.
So is the call center open for the full extent of the hours when the Flex service is operating?
Yes. Well, the call center right now, again, is not taking these. We're going to be making that change here internally. It's going through flexible services, which as a former employee is really STAR. So those calls are taken by STAR, and there's always a supervisor on call during the time frame of when this Flex operates.
Billy Joe just noted she's excited to hear this will be coming into the Saratoga County area. She's at Saratoga County Aging.
Okay, nice, Billy Joe. And we had a meeting up there again a little bit over a year ago with the chamber again. So we had some good conversations, and again, there's a wide customer base that can take advantage of this. Boston Spa has limited service, and that probably one day will be an area where you can go there regularly with Flex too. So I expect for those of you that are really into transit, 10, 15 years from now, you're likely to see a change in our network, which is really trunk routes provide that fixed route service in the dense core urban areas. And then we do a lot more of this type of service when you get out into neighborhoods and some of the hill towns and some of the other areas where either we haven't had great service to date or we just haven't had service at all. I think this is the beginning of the transformation of the Capital Region Transportation Network. And even though we've been able to get $100 million, in funding from the federal government over the last year due to the CARES Act and some of the other ones, the expectation is for us to reinvent ourselves with that money. So that's what we're trying to do here. And I think you'll see a holistic system of all the things I touched on earlier. CDPHP Cycle is approaching 20,000 members in its 5th year. And electric scooters are Lindsay's and I's biggest challenge right now because of the municipal concerns about sprawl and just the quality of life and them being thrown all over the place. So, we're doing a lot to make our system more attractive to more people.
Could you talk a little bit about the methodology that you're using for choosing Flex locations? Like what are your data inputs to that? What kind of, do you do mapping?
Well, for the most part, it's a combination of data and real world kind of heartbeat, touch and feel. With the first zone in Colony, Guilderland, and Latham, we knew that there was 3 or 4 fixed route services in there that did not perform very well. So that was an easy one. You had to take a look at the data, you see the ridership per hour, you try to get the on-offs of where they're getting on and off the services. So that was a little bit easier. I think we knew that we wanted to try something different with the second zone. So the second zone was really based on a desert. So the data there is the lack of data. It wasn't really based on data so much as it was, we know this is an underserved area, and when you're piloting something like we're piloting Flex, you want to have as many options and different views of it as you can. So to have one data-driven zone where we know we have fixed route service that can be dialed back, and then taking a look at a zone that had none and what it does there, that kind of makes sense. As far as the other ones that we shared that we're looking at down the road, again, if you want to talk from a data perspective, our Saratoga riderships annually, probably out of the 4 counties, the weakest. So we know that that's a place where we can try to shore things up. And the rail station is not more so data, it's more just, again, experience and understanding of the marketplace, that from Uber and Lyft to taxi cabs to technology, hospitality services, we have not had a solution at the Rensselaer rail station that carries, when things are normal, more people to the region of anything outside of the airport. It's an important place for us to be, and it's an important place for people to feel that they have a quality service and they know what to expect. So they're all different to a certain degree is the actual answer. I do like to think I cover all the bases, but I can't be that good. So I'm sorry if I bored you or if it's not exciting.
Any follow-up questions? I think I'm all set with mine.
And obviously, anyone who's on the call is welcome to reach out to Lindsay or I. Certainly, again, I know a few of you, Diane in particular, how are you? You know, so from our perspective, we're here, we're an open book, we're happy to talk things through, and we're always on the lookout to try something new, try a new area, and make sure that all types of customers are being helped, so.
So it did sound like, you know, you are trying to be really responsive to the community, and so a lot of your inputs of where you're looking are based on requests or people trying to point out to you that there's, you know, like with Mechanicville, the transportation desert. So
Yeah, you have that combined with everything that Ross's shop has. You take that's one side, take the other side, smash them together.
so if people do think that there's a need somewhere, contacting you and letting you know would be a good idea.
Yeah, we'll walk through that process. We'll take a look at what's there now, and if there's nothing there now, then we go through a similar process. We went through Mechanicville. We did a survey of 400 people in the city. Town supervisor, myself, and the Todd Shimkus, the president of the Saratoga Chamber, we're doing the knocking on doors, having meetings process, and you know, you got to build that support. For us, this doesn't require subsidy to get going, but it requires some form of critical mass, and we certainly felt that was available in Mechanicville, and some of the other places I touched on at the end of the presentation are kind of getting there.
All right, well, thank you for being here.
Our pleasure. Always good to see everyone. Have a great Easter weekend, and holiday, and Passover, and we'll be back whenever we're asked next time.
Great, thanks.